Books presents an unabridged recording of The Gates of the Alamo by Stephen Harrigan, narrated by George Guidell. This book is copyrighted 2000 by Stephen Harrigan. This recording is copyrighted 2001 by Recorded Books. The time is 1835. Through the lives of three people, a courageous naturalist, a widowed innkeeper, and her son, we are led into the complex historical tapestry that surrounds an American legend, an event that formed the consciousness of Texas and resonates through American history. And now, the Gates of the Alamo.
The Battle of Flowers, April 21st, 1911. Terrell Mott rode to the Alamo in a Buick touring car, creeping along behind a procession of horse-drawn Victorias and Tallyhos. Like the carriages, the big gasoline car had been covered with flowers, barely leaving space on the door panels for a sign identifying the white-whiskered relic who rode inside. Mr. Mott, messenger of the Alamo, last surviving hero of San Jacinto, former mayor of San Antonio. He was so wondrously old. He waved stiffly at the crowds with his almost useless right arm, his shoulder socket still frozen from a fall a decade ago in a barber shop, his hand broken and fused into a claw ever since that night at the Cibolo crossing, when a Mexican musket ball had snapped the leg of his mare and he and the horse had hit the road with a velocity he still found unsettling to think about 75 years later. In the polished wooden dashboard of the Buick, in the gleaming brass of the passenger-side lamp, Terrell could see tenuous reflections of his ancient face, the bushy white chin-beard cut square across the bottom like a paintbrush. He was perfectly toothless now, having surrendered the last of his venerable molars to a Mexican dentist in Laredito. His empty mouth, along with the consummate baldness of his head beneath his gray stockman's hat, filled him with a certain grim satisfaction. Nature was almost finished with him. He had, at the age of 91, no notion or need of anything further. For a few years after he had been saved from death at the Alamo, he had felt God's fierce protective providence, but it had passed like a fever, and spiritual concerns had never troubled him again. Ponder it as he might, he could not see his approaching death as a mystery. It was just a shape on the horizon, a recognizable thing that had not yet come into focus. "Old Sol has seen fit to shine after all," he announced politely to Parthenia and the driver, a young man from the Buick dealership, whose already froggish face was comically accentuated by his bulging goggles. "I suppose he didn't have the heart to disappoint all these people," the driver said, just as Terrell experienced a gentle swell of nausea. The streets of San Antonio were a sea of feathered women's hats, of spring boaters, and still the occasional sombrero. Terrell saw the crowd imperfectly through the distorting lenses of his spectacles and the cataracts that were slowly sealing his eyes into an opaque blindness. He waved his rigid arm in the vicinity of the onlookers and received negligent waves in return. The music of the mounted band up ahead reached him as a series of brassy tremors whose rhythm he could not locate, and the odor of flowers saturated the streets with a ripeness he could not distinguish from decay. "Did you take your bitters?" Parthenia asked Terrell. "You look dyspeptic." He patted his granddaughter's hand reassuringly and gave her a close-mouthed smile he had recently perfected. He still had some vanity about his missing teeth and didn't like to display his gums in an open grin. A faint breeze rippled through his beard and helped take his mind off the reeking blossoms. "I took my bitters," he said. "You worry about your carnival." Parthenia was president this year of the Battle of Flowers Association. She had also taken over the role of mistress of the Queen's household when the original mistress, a dim but high-spirited young woman, had resigned after embarrassing the Order of the Alamo by getting drunk and appearing in public in harem pants. And Parthenia's daughter rode today in the lead carriage, seated on a throne garlanded by lilies of the valley, with attendants and pages at her feet and the Third Field Artillery clearing the way. Her gracious Majesty Queen Julia of the House of Toperwine. Terrell glimpsed Julia's carriage up ahead when the procession turned a sharp corner and began to follow the river downtown. He saw his great-granddaughter's gloved arm.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.